Picture this. It's Black Friday, you're scrolling through Amazon, and suddenly you see the holy grail of screens, a 49-inch curved OLED gaming monitor. Meet Mark, a graphic designer in Seattle who's currently using a dusty 3-year-old screen that works perfectly fine, but frankly, it just looks boring. But Mark convinces himself that this isn't spending, it's a crucial investment in his career productivity, so he pulls the trigger and drops $1,400. When that sleek, futuristic beast arrives and glows with RGB lighting, Mark feels a pure rush of dopamine, like he has finally achieved success. But the moment he sits down, the trouble starts because he realizes that masterpiece of engineering is sitting on a cheap, wobbly particle board desk from college. Suddenly, putting that high-end technology on a scratched-up $50 table feels absolutely wrong, almost like he is disrespecting the equipment. So Mark immediately goes back online to fix the problem and drops another $800 on a premium solid walnut standing desk. Now the setup looks incredible, until he looks down at his old mesh chair with the torn fabric and that annoying squeaky wheel. It looks like total garbage next to the walnut wood, so he buys a $1,200 Herman Miller chair just to match the new aesthetic. In just 1 week, a simple upgrade has quietly mutated into a $3,500 overhaul that Mark never planned for and certainly didn't budget for. This isn't just bad math. It is a psychological glitch in the human brain that has destroyed more fortunes than the stock market ever could. It explains why winning the lottery often ends in bankruptcy and why getting a big raise at work often leaves you closer to debt. This phenomenon actually has a formal name, and it isn't some modern glitch, but rather an ancient psychological trap known as the Diderot Effect. I'm Wojak, and today we are exposing the invisible scripts that keep you broke, because most people falsely believe they only buy things out of necessity. I am going to prove to you that you don't buy things because you want them, but rather because your existing possessions are secretly demanding them. To understand why you can't stop spending money just like Mark, we have to travel back in time to France in the year 1765. Meet Denis Diderot, who wasn't just a nobody, but a famous French philosopher and the brilliant co-founder of the Encyclopedia during the Enlightenment. Despite his massive intellectual fame, Diderot was financially broken, living a humble life in old clothes and walking on threadbare rugs that had seen better days. He spent his days sitting on a rickety wooden chair in a dusty library, and yet he was completely content and happy with his simple existence. But everything changed when Catherine the Great, the Empress of Russia, heard about his struggles and decided to intervene because she was a massive fan. She bought his library for a massive sum, roughly $50,000 today, while generously allowing him to keep the books in his possession. Suddenly flush with cash, he did exactly what any of us would do and treated himself to a beautiful, expensive scarlet dressing gown fit for a king. He brought it home, put it on, and looked in the mirror, feeling elegant, wealthy, and like he had finally arrived at the station of success. But as he sat down to write, he noticed that while the robe was magnificent, his old scratched-up and rotting desk looked absolutely terrible beneath it. The contrast was so painful that the desk felt like an insult to the robe, so he immediately replaced it with a beautiful, polished mahogany writing table. Now the robe and desk looked great, but looking down, he realized his threadbare rug looked like a dirty rag compared to the shining mahogany wood. It ruined the entire aesthetic, so he bought a plush Damascus rug from Syria, and you can probably guess exactly what happened next in this spiral. The new rug made the curtains look cheap, which made the chair look like firewood, forcing him to buy a leather armchair, new paintings, and mirrors. He spent months obsessing over the unity of his room, systematically replacing every single object until the entire environment matched the quality of that one scarlet robe. And at the end of this exhaustingly expensive renovation, the brilliant philosopher Denis Diderot found himself completely broke all over again. Diderot later wrote a famous essay about this experience, where he penned a line that is absolutely haunting even 3 centuries later. He wrote, "I was the absolute master of my old dressing gown, but I have become a humble slave to my new one." This is the core of the Diderot effect. The introduction of a new possession often triggers a spiraling process of endless consumption. We trick ourselves into thinking we own our things, but in reality our things eventually end up owning us. You might be thinking that's a nice story about a French guy, but you don't wear scarlet robes, so who cares? But this applies to you every single day, and it is actually far more dangerous now than it was in 1765. Modern marketing isn't just advertising. It is designed with weaponized precision to trigger this exact psychological vulnerability in your brain. Let's look at the fitness identity spiral. Say you decide to get in shape for the new year and buy a $1,500 Peloton. You tell yourself it's essential for your health. But when that sleek black bike arrives, you realize you can't ride it in baggy cotton shorts. You don't look like the instructors on the screen, and you certainly don't feel like a cyclist, so you have to fix the image. You buy the specialized shoes for $150, the moisture-wicking shorts for $80, and the branded tank top for $50 more. Then you realize the bike looks cluttered in your living room, so you buy a premium yoga mat and a 4K TV to create a Zen workspace. Suddenly, you haven't just bought a piece of exercise equipment. You have inadvertently purchased an entirely new and expensive identity. This is the core psychology of the trap. As humans, we are desperate for our external world to match our internal self-image. When you buy a high-status anchor item like a luxury car or a designer handbag, you are fundamentally upgrading your identity. If you see yourself as a Honda Civic person, you are totally comfortable wearing jeans and eating a burger at a drive-thru. But if you stretch your budget to buy a Porsche 911, you have shifted your identity and now you are a Porsche person. Porsche people don't wear scratched gas station sunglasses, they don't have cheap particle board furniture, and they certainly don't eat off paper plates. The car acts as the anchor that sets a new baseline, and everything below that baseline creates a painful psychological tension. To relieve that tension, the car forces you to upgrade your wardrobe, which forces you to upgrade your vacations and your luggage. You aren't spending money because you want to. You are spending money just to maintain coherence in the story you are telling yourself. This brings us to a hard truth, that popular advice to fake it till you make it is actually one of the most financially toxic lies in existence. If you fake it by buying a Rolex before you can truly afford the lifestyle, that watch isn't just an accessory. It becomes a demanding little tyrant on your wrist. It will immediately demand a tailored Italian suit, then a luxury car to rest your arm on, and finally a steakhouse dinner tab that will absolutely bankrupt you. You realize too late that you aren't just buying an object. You are signing a binding contract for an expensive lifestyle that you simply cannot support. Let's break down the math of the chain reaction cost, because most people make the fatal mistake of calculating the price of a new item in total isolation. They look at a price tag at Home Depot and ask, "Can I afford these $10,000 cabinets?" without realizing that is the completely wrong question to ask. You budget 10 grand for crisp white cabinets, but once they are installed, you step back and realize your 10-year-old refrigerator suddenly looks yellow and disgusting. It works perfectly fine, but visually it clashes with the new look, so you sigh and drop another $2,500 on a stainless steel smart fridge. Now the appliances look sleek, but looking down, your old vinyl floor looks cheap and dated, and the contrast becomes so unbearable you have to rip it out. You put in brand new hardwood for another $5,000, and finally, the kitchen is a masterpiece that looks like it belongs on a magazine cover. But here is the kicker. Because you have an open-concept house, when you look into the living room, your old brown sofa suddenly looks like absolute trash. The renovation leaks into the living room, forcing you to buy a new sectional, meaning the final cost wasn't $10,000, it was actually $35,000. Those cabinets were your Scarlet Robe, the anchor item that made everything else look inadequate and tricked you into hating things you were previously happy with. This brings us to a terrifying realization that Diderot discovered too late. That financial upgrades are often just lifestyle downgrades in disguise. When Diderot had his old robe, he didn't worry about ink stains or dirt. He was the master of his possessions because they served him functionally. But the moment he put on the new robe, he became terrified of ruining it. He became stiff, and he effectively lost his personal freedom. We see this today when you buy a brand new white couch. Suddenly, you stop letting your friends drink red wine or eat snacks in the living room. You stop letting the dog jump up to cuddle, and you stop actually living in your living room because you are too busy servicing the object. You cease to be the resident of your own home and become the curator of a museum that you pay to maintain but are afraid to touch. So the big question is, how do we actually stop this psychological pattern that is deeply hardwired into our brains? We can't just move into a cave and never buy nice things again because that isn't realistic, but we can build firewalls to stop the spiral. Here is my practical 3-step defense strategy designed specifically to protect your wallet against the Diderot effect. Strategy number 1 is to calculate the Trojan horse cost before you buy any upgrade item like a new console, a suit, or a camera. You must pause for a moment and ask yourself the critical question: what else is this specific item going to demand from me in the future? If you buy that PS5, is it going to demand a brand new 4K TV just so you can actually see the graphics properly? You need to write down the full system cost, because if the console is $500 but the system is $2,000, you cannot afford it. In that scenario, you aren't just buying a toy, you are unknowingly inviting a financial Trojan horse right into your living room. Strategy number 2 is the one-in, one-out rule, because the Diderot effect thrives on accumulation where we keep old things just in case. You have to cap your inventory, so if you buy a new pair of sneakers, an old pair must immediately leave the house. This simple discipline prevents you from building a shrine of possessions and keeps you in the mindset of a user, not a collector. Strategy number 3 is the nuclear option called strategic downgrading, which is the only way to reset your baseline by deliberately lowering your status. Drive a slightly older car than you can afford, or wear a simple durable watch like a Casio instead of flashing a Rolex. Why do this? Because when your anchor items are humble, you feel absolutely zero pressure to upgrade every other part of your life. If you drive a beat-up Toyota Tacoma truck, nobody on earth expects you to step out of it wearing a $2,000 Italian suit. You have total freedom to wear jeans and eat a messy burrito in the car without panicking about a single crumb falling on the leather. By keeping your status symbols low, you lower your life's maintenance costs and create what I call a low-maintenance identity. And let me tell you, a low-maintenance identity is hands down the most profitable asset you can possibly own in the modern world. It allows you to stack cash and build real wealth while everyone else is busy going broke curating their own personal museums. Look, there is nothing wrong with nice things, but you have to understand that consumerism is designed to make you feel incomplete. The entire system is engineered to make you feel that you are always just one single purchase away from true happiness. But Diderot taught us that one purchase doesn't finish the puzzle. It scrambles the board and forces you to start all over again. So please don't be a slave to your robe. Choose to be the absolute master of your life and your financial destiny. If you want to learn how to build wealth without showing off, check out this video right here where I break down the Coast Fire method. And if this video saved you from a stupid purchase, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more financial sanity. I'm Wojak. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Don't buy the robe.